Hello and welcome everyone. Ladies, gentlemen, people who think Lucky Star was bad. Actually, you can go. I'm elated to return with part 2 of every anime in 1989 reviewed. It's been a while, so if you missed the first part, links to it will be in all the places you would expect, but why not stick around for now? No particular need to worry about missing some grand 4-part narrative. As a preemptive measure before you get spooked by a sudden strange voice, in this video I'll be joined by my buddies Man-Mode and Urban the Myth to help with covering all this stuff. Also some basic rules, only stuff that started in the spring season will be here, unsubbed stuff gets at least 1 episode, sub shows get 3, and with OVAs under 10 episodes and movies we will definitely finish them. And for the most part I'll be leaving out sequels and stuff in that vein. If it's not here, I either couldn't find it anywhere or it's hentai. Alright, let's go. Yoma. Yeah, this one left something to be desired. It was kind of a struggle to make it through it, despite it only being 2 40-ish minute episodes long. The gritty, gory fantasy OVAs of this era seem to be a pretty well-established niche, even if I haven't seen all too many of them. But I can't help but think of Kyomu Senshi Miroku, which I covered in the last episode. Not to say I particularly loved that one, but I feel like it at least accomplished the baseline of what you should expect from something in that style. And Yoma failed to match up to it in any sense whatsoever. One of my big criticisms of Miroku was the lack of much development at all for the romance between the main character and his love interest, and Yoma manages somehow to one-up it in that department. This gal and the dude are proclaimed to be in love after knowing each other for maybe 24 hours at best and exchanging almost no dialogue at all. And come on, he's not even that attractive. Worse still, just across the board it is so unbearably bland. The main character's name is called like a billion times, I swear, and yet I can still never remember his name. Not even while I was watching the OVA and trying to recall it, because he's such a nothing character. He has no personality, no charisma, no anything. Just this crazy obsession for his brother who's turned evil. Which, granted, could have some emotional stakes to it, except that there's maybe 30 seconds of animation to establish their relationship as children that they just repeat when they want to call back to that. Okay, I see, they run together. What a profound relationship. Now, I know for these types of OVAs, rarely is the story and characters itself the main or even a appeal of it. Though I'd say usually the characters are at least quirky and somewhat funny, not lifeless and forgettable. No, the general draw is the aesthetic and animation, watching this dude slice some other dudes with some blood and guts that you ain't getting from no Nickelodeon show. The issue is, even in that department, it is pretty unremarkable. I mean, it's there, but the aesthetic leaves little impression. There's no draw to its direction barring a few cool shots. The deaths are pretty unbrutal compared to other works like it, and the monster designs are just bugs. Not even weird creatures taking inspiration from bugs, nah, they just look like bugs. The animation is pretty stiff and unexpressive, and the sound design is terrible. So there's really no reason to check this one out. Go watch something better. Idol Densetsu Eriko. Idol Densetsu Eriko, a story about the many trials besetting young idol Eriko Tamara, and apparently based, though likely in name only, on the idol and actress of the same name. The IRL individual has gone to play Yaiko in Heroes and Mai in Dragon Ball Evolution, which is neat, I guess. I almost feel I have to justify my enjoyment of this show, though it's still in the process of being fansubbed at the time of recording, with about 40 of the 51 episodes out currently. I liked it enough to watch through over 10 of them with plans to watch more. I can't say that it's exceptional in any department really, but it's got an unmatchable charm to it. The hyper-dramatic presentation, with the lengths to which Eriko continually faces and must overcome adversity, is both somewhat comical and compelling, but always immensely entertaining. The end of episode narrator meant to hype people up to tune in next week as she calls the brief moment of happiness a prelude to greater tragedy and ponders what the spinning wheel of fate will bring next for this innocent young girl. Man, I love it. Dramatizing something to this degree can either turn out to be great or obnoxious, and for me in this case it's fortunately the former. Though the music doesn't do too much for me, even if it is enjoyable, and honestly I found Eriko's performance kind of lacking, especially considering she's presented as being this insane musical prodigy. The show does have a great sense for dramatic imagery and pacing so as to keep events unfolding without things getting stale, hiding its formulaic nature under a blanket of new revelations and growing character arcs. Eriko is beset with the loss of her father and her mother ending up in a coma, and is forced into idle life by her abusive uncle who resented her dad's success. She manages to escape him while still pursuing the career without his evil methods, but he is always lurking and plotting in the shadows, a delightfully terrible dude. The childish peaks of emotion paired with a visual flair that sells it makes it a fun time, and one I definitely recommend if it sounds like your cup of tea. Karuda Mao movie. Before I even get to this one, I have to say that I may as well have watched it unsubbed. The only subtitles I could find are an abhorrent mess that looks like someone just threw it all into Google Translate and ran with that. Typos and grammatical errors are everywhere, the dialogue is excessively verbose and formal, filled with double negatives and other issues. It's pretty incomprehensible, and honestly I wouldn't even try to watch it with the subs because I think it ultimately detracted from my enjoyment. Which is to say that I still did enjoy it. Some sort of horror happenings are going on in this 80-minute movie, but it'd be a struggle to explain any of it thanks to the aforementioned annoyance. Something with spirits being sealed in this Japanese high school and these girls are special and something about their grandmother and yeah, I don't know. What it does have is some great visuals. There are plenty of genuinely awesome cuts here and there, and cool ways of framing shots that I don't even think I can say I've seen done similarly before. It's got an extremely unique style to its presentation that is super varied and interesting, and unlike Yoma, which we covered earlier, it goes all out in its grotesque depictions with some real unsettling and memorable visuals. I definitely won't forget the skeleton dude, even though he's only in the movie for like 15 minutes. And Karuda Mao is this great sliding door of neat visual ideas while never dwelling on any one thing for too long, which is why I think it holds up pretty darn well, even without having too firm a grasp on what's going on, besides it being some sort of supernatural mishap. And I just sincerely love this scene. It goes on for like another 15 seconds, but you get the idea. Tenku Senki Shurato. Tenku Senki is an isekai wherein two equally matched close friends and members of the same dojo are interrupted at the height of their climactic battle and transported to another world. Hidaka was the outgoing but brash type, whereas Guy was quiet and contemplative. Before having any time to think though, Hidaka is awakened in this new world by a kiss from a ditzy but cute girl, followed by an attack from a fully decked out Guy. In response to his expressions of surprise and appeals to Guy's friendship, Guy's responses all boil down to and the attack continues. To cut this summary short, Hidaka escapes, finds out from the person who summoned him that he and the other chosen ones must help defeat the evil, then that person is betrayed and he is framed for the action. Kind of reminds me of another isekai that came out quite recently. While I do appreciate the lengths it goes to establish Hidaka and Guy's relationship as something deeper and more genuine, and I am indeed sold on that aspect, ultimately nothing in particular stands out or grabs me about it. If you are a big isekai fan, I'd definitely say it's worth checking out. It's perfectly adequate with a nice aesthetic, decent characters, and good character designs. But after episode 2, I already felt like I had gotten everything I personally was going to get out of the show. Mobile Suit Gundam 0080. War in the Pocket. This 6-episode OVA tackles the events on a small neutral colony during the height of the war between Zeon and the Earth Federation. What's great is that it starts good and ends great, continually building on the characters and themes of each episode prior in a way that feels organic. As these relationships build, so too do we grow more invested in them, and without spoiling anything, I'll just say that by the end, it will definitely leave you with something to contemplate. Its clever use of juxtaposition, wherein certain characters know information that others don't, works well to sell its focus on different perspectives and how that affects us. The subject matter, war, is one already explored plenty, sure, but the way War in the Pocket handles it is very interesting. The fetishization of war, the psychology of one driven down that path, and how two individuals can be driven down entirely conflicting paths by pure circumstance. War in the Pocket handles its subject without ever feeling preachy or direct. Rather, what you take away is whatever you choose to find in it, that the messages evolve naturally out of the story presented. I could probably ramble for longer, but in short, it's great and you should definitely watch it, and I wouldn't say that you need any prior knowledge of Gundam to enjoy it either. After the surprise favorite that was Riding Bean of the last season and last episode, I was expecting to enjoy City Hunter, especially considering it seems to have a fairly positive reception behind it. Unfortunately, for my first experience with the City Hunter franchise, it's not good. The voice acting is obnoxious, the sound design totally takes me out of it with plenty of cheap and unfitting sound effects. That performance piano sounds god-awful, the mixing across the board is also pretty bad, with the voices super echoey or way too quiet under the soundtrack, which is also not that good either. I could go into more substantial territory with how it deals with gender dynamics, but I'm really not in the mood and I have my doubts that you are either. All in all, would not recommend. Visuals are pretty meh, even if there are a few cool cuts. The story is real boring thanks to characters either being terribly uninteresting or entirely obnoxious, and where you'd expect to have some hotties with as much sexualization as there is, everyone here is pretty unappealing.
The best thing about revisiting these older anime seasons is the potential to uncover gems lost to time. This idea that there's a vast world of original anime no one is talking about. Feels like something, I don't know, special I guess.
Number 1, Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z is a significantly important series to me personally. Alongside Pokemon, Dragon Ball was my introduction into anime, as I'm sure was the case for nearly everyone. You know, while I can respect and enjoy the show, upon revisiting these first few episodes, it was a little disappointing, honestly. If you have issues with shonen tropes, well boy do I got the experience for you. I'm sure it's not too controversial to suggest that many of the shonenisms we're familiar with were spawned from, or at least popularized by, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. In this little introduction arc, we get info dumped, we see long drawn out fight scenes that frequently pause, a villain who wants to kill just because he's the villain, freaking out about power levels, the whole shebang. I feel pretty bad that I couldn't find much good to say about a series that I was a massive fan of back in the day, but that's what time and age does, I suppose. Unless you're Yu Yu Hakusho. I don't want to completely throw DBZ under the bus though. I would suggest checking out Dragon Ball before diving into Z if you somehow haven't already. And Z does manage to pick up eventually. If nothing else, I can appreciate Toriyama's art style and appreciate some of the creative world building. Overall, I had fun with revisiting this, but find it kind of hard to recommend unless you're willing to get through a significant amount of episodes first. Next!
Guy go.
Do you like Ultraman? Do you like American 80s cartoons you don't remember that well?
You saved the Earth!
Do you like,
Look out! Oh.
Then you'll like Ultraman USA! Honestly, the most interesting thing about this movie is its plot structure. Not because it's good, but that things just happen and almost immediately get resolved.
Are you one of the people who just destroyed the extraterrestrial?
Yeah.
As the
Hiya, Doc.
I'm calling a cop.
Doc, wait.
Now that I've met you, I do believe you were doing what you felt was right.
But yeah, apparently this was a joint project between Tsuburaya Productions and Hanna-Barbera. And the Hanna-Barbera part really fucking shows. It was pretty boring, and I feel you could find several other similar movies or shows like this that are more worth your time. Explorer Woman Ray, more like, is there anything to say? It's fucking terrible. No, but really, these OVAs are the epitome of fine. Like animation is fine, the environments are fine, the character designs are fine, the plot is fine, but I'm struggling to find anything particularly noteworthy with this. It's kind of fun, and I guess there are things to poke fun at, like this blonde Neanderthal who gets his ass kicked constantly, and is basically all he does. If you're looking for a short adventure show and like this sort of architecture, I guess, that's what I primarily liked. I could almost recommend it. However, I'm sure you can find something much more worth your time. Yoroi and Samurai Troopers Gaiden, is a 2-episode OVA connected to a longer 39-episode series, and you can bet I didn't watch any of that, but this is pretty straightforward anyway. While this didn't exactly blow my mind or anything, I did appreciate some of the art direction. Action is simple but has some life in it, and the character designs are nice, especially Runa. But I'm really only into Runa for her looks. Honestly, her personality constantly changes and it's kind of funny. Sure, you could argue she was influenced by circumstance and just becomes her normal self by the end, but everything happens so quickly and it's hard to pin down what kind of character she's supposed to be. But enough drooling and laughing at this video's waifu. There's other characters and they're okay. Simple archetypes like the obvious main character, the goofy guy, the woman and child that exist just to get kidnapped. But I like that you get the sense that they're all good friends and without having to force it. It's just genuine. It was worth some sort of praise. I don't know. It's nice. Overall, I can't say I really enjoyed this one either, though. There's quite a bit of forced drama. It's a bare bones plot. Characters are a bit too simple, and the aesthetic is not much more than just mildly interesting. It's much more worth your time than the last 2 shows I looked at, but still not something I could find myself revisiting really. Now I know what you're thinking. Does this cynical little bitch like anything? No. But Ranma 1/2 is pretty cool. Oh my god, I actually liked a thing in this. Ranma 1/2 is a comedy primarily, but it's also got some surprisingly good action choreography and a central romance that's pretty cute. It's a story about a boy who, after falling into a cursed pond, turns into a girl when coming into contact with cold water, and turns back into a boy with hot water. His dad also operates by the same rule set, except instead of a girl, he turns into a panda. Ranma is set to be Akane's fiancé, both of whom don't initially care for the idea, and hijinks ensue. Admittedly, the gender-swapping premise does result in some repetitive jokes, but they manage to take an interesting spin on this often enough. Ranma also has this funny quirk where he will willingly turn into a girl to do things he'd be embarrassed to do as a boy, and it's funny because Ranma has little to no shame in acting girly when he does this. It's actually kind of cathartic, honestly. Some of the visual humor is also really creative. I don't think I've ever seen something like this shot, for example. Bottom line, the show's funny. It's not always hitting homers, but it constantly maintains a fun and absurd atmosphere with endearing characters, a soft and appealing aesthetic, and cute, expressive character designs. If there would be any sort of warning, it would be that there's some frontal nudity and it's really long. I got no problem with either of those, so I'm strapped in. I'm already 20 episodes deep. Honestly, discovering this one gem was well worth digging through some of the dirt. I recommend everyone look back into some older anime from time to time. You never know when you're gonna find a new favorite.
こうじゃないの？
お前なんか大嫌いだ。
嬉しいわ。
He thought it was time to settle down, find love, live in a humble apartment, be a family man, and quit his adventurous life as a thief. After all, with the data they've collected on him over the years, police can predict his every move. He tried to steal the data, but the times have caught up to him. Long gone are the days where he can simply burn the papers and erase the evidence. Now, they've got it all stored into computers across the globe. Can a thief such as Lupin retire after everything he's done? No, of course he won't. Trouble keeps knocking on his door, but trouble for Lupin means adventure, excitement, which is why he's a thief in the first place. Sometimes his biggest enemy, Zenigata, who just won't let the man breathe, and other times his old companions trying to pull him in for one more big robbery for the old time's sake. After all, this time the treasure, the price, is too alluring. This time they've got their eyes set on the world's biggest diamond, Super Egg, hidden inside Lady Liberty herself. Involved is a strange cult who need the diamond not for money, but for ulterior motives. A beautiful woman and a boy in search of a super virus that can alter computer data all across the world. And you know who's in need of data deletion. How are all these individuals connected? How are they related to each other? And how is Lupin going to find the super egg inside Lady Liberty with all his pursuers tailing him? The lady won't tell him the secret. So his best option might just be to steal Lady Liberty herself. Theft, action, love, betrayal, twists and turns, jazz, you know it. The classic Lupin the Third package, everything is here. I know I got eyes on me when talking about old shows, and especially a beloved title such as Lupin, and especially one directed by motherfucking Osamu Dezaki. So I'm afraid to say anything negative, but it looks like I won't need to. I've become a big Lupin fan myself. I will just say that it won't blow anyone's mind. It's just fun, and that's more than enough. If you want to start watching Lupin the Third, which you should, and you're wondering where to start with this franchise, don't worry, you can start with anything you like. Most would point you to Castle of Cagliostro, directed by the legendary Big M, but with just a slightly more mature tone, both thematically and visually, I'd say that this one is also an excellent choice to start with. Groovy tunes and stellar animation bringing our lovable gang of weirdos to life in an aesthetic, entertaining movie full of everything Lupin. If you're looking for just a fun, solid hour and a half, you can't go wrong with Lupin the Third, Bye Bye Liberty Crisis. Are you a cheap fuck who likes a quick fuck? Okay, here's Walmart Lupin. A Lupin-esque anime without any of the things that make Lupin good. It has sexy girls though. Sexy bunny girls. If you can bear to look at their faces. I know I can. I like this uncanny valley Down syndrome aesthetic. I relate to it on a personal level. It's alright. Dumb, but fun. Sometimes. Has some action, has some sexy, a few characters that are okay. A plot. It has good graphics. It's like a 6. You probably won't hate it. From the creator of Bounty Hunter, The Heart, Dog Soldier, Shoot Fighter Tekken, Bad Police, Damned, Devil's Ex-Devil, Tough and Tough Gaiden, Oto. So basically, from the creator of everything manly that ever existed comes Riki O. Don't try to make sense of it. It's fucking awesome. Go watch it.
覚めた目をしてるこのまま全て失ってゆくのか
I know Core said that we would finish movies, but this one is genuinely so boring. Yeah, it looks good sometimes and it likes to make people explode. But aside from that, there is just nothing solid to pay attention to. Characters put me to sleep. The story puts me to sleep. This bed is putting me to sleep. I think I'm just gonna...
have fallen to the enemy. We haven't been able to contact our other allies, and we can't even get a message to go back.
Exactly. There's no escaping the fact that we're left completely without outside support. We had a secret.
それがブルー骨砕かれても抱き足りねえし胸割られても傷つきたいお前がいつもの嘘つきやがるはめられ殺されてもいいのさそんなブルース顔切られても口つけてし欺かれても狂わせたいこの俺もいつかは神様に見られ今夜も懺悔が聞こえない俺のブルー錆び泣いたら雨降り続き抱いてくれたら秘密教えてやるお前は笑って裸になるこんな悲しい罠騙され捨てられん壊れそれがブルー俺のブルー
So I was walking down the street, and then this man, he was 6'5", he ran into me and said, "I hate black women."
あんまり面白くねえな、その話。
Hoshii Neko Full House. Hoshii Neko Full House is a fun sci-fi romp that manages a pretty interesting setup and strong sense of humor without making it outright farcical. At the beginning, at least. There is plenty to like about it. It looks pretty good, the pervy robot, though a character you'd expect to be annoying, is pretty charming. The ecchi humor is handled well in a way that's upfront and unabashed about its perversion, all while presenting it in a rather laid-back manner. Not the obnoxious, in-your-face, hey look at this, that gets on my nerves. This 4-episode OVA follows a porno smuggler out in space when the computer AI the world relies on suddenly revolts against humans and puts them all into containment, cutting off the energy and any communication. As someone operating outside of the law though, Seitoro has less worry, using his ship to pick up 3 stranded girls from a prestigious high school, and ultimately with them must defeat the robot and save the world. Except that the main conflict is resolved in the first 10 minutes of episode 4 in an insultingly stupid manner, and it then uses the remaining 20 to set up an entirely different conflict so that it has some actual sense of dramatic resolution. It just feels like they ran out of ideas, honestly. It is a shame, because the production is pretty good, the characters are extremely charming, and it has a fair share of great funny moments. But with each episode following the first, the elements that drew me to it grew continually less well balanced. Not a waste of time by any means, but definitely something that had potential to be far greater. Alrighty, it's time for an unsub speedrun. It should be obvious I don't speak Japanese, but I have studied a little bit, about to the level that I can kind of understand a little kid's show, so let's see how this goes. Miracle Giants Domekun. Young boy is convinced to pursue baseball after swearing it off when his father, who taught him and was a professional player, passed away. Not quite sure if it was due to an injury related to playing or not, I couldn't quite pick up on that front. Obviously the episodes following the first will have him actually playing the game, with this as the setup for the premise, but visually it's pretty meh, and I'm not a huge sports guy either way, so I can't see myself coming back to this one even if it was subbed. Shogeki Shinsengumi. A historical Japanese comedy? Those are hard enough to understand even with subtitles. Tokiiro Kaima. Monsters, magic, and a pretty dope atmospheric OST. Held back by the fact that the entire thing just is a real boring slideshow. Apparently blood just explodes out of the air when you get hit. Good to know. And that concludes our unsub speedrun. Fortunately, most of the anime from this season were available, at least partially subtitled. Okay, it's time for me to let you in on a little behind the scenes. While watching and writing this video, I've been bulldozing through a lot of shows, and you know, sometimes that can get a bit tiring. Fortunately, a lot of it has been pretty good, but when I saw the cover for Ahiru no Quack, or as I'll refer to it henceforth, Alfred J. Quack, I really can't say I was looking forward to it. My expectation was a pretty meh episodic kids show with tiresome humor, something I'd have to sit through 3 episodes of and would probably end up writing like 2 sentences on, but boy oh boy was I mistaken on that front. I'm not going to go too in-depth here, obviously I can't get too into it even if I wanted to by way of the nature of this show of mine, but it did spark an interest in covering Alfred J. Quack properly in the future, as this show is kind of fascinating. If you're Dutch, you might know what I'm talking about already, as it seems to be pretty well recognized there. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the Dutch version with English subtitles, which seems like it would be the best way to experience it, especially considering that in the Japanese version there's even a Dutch insert song in the first episode, which in the English one has the vocals cut so it's just a backing track. Which now makes sense as to why that scene seemed even weirder than the usual standard of strange for the show.
Zag ik zo'n lieve eentje zoals jij, zo'n mooi eentje zoals jij.
I didn't come across the Japanese version with subtitles until after I had already watched 3 episodes with the English dub, but insert song aside, I think this may actually be one of the very few instances where I prefer the English version. It has a very distinct charm to it, and the laid-back vocal delivery and slight awkwardness really suits the show's presentation.
I love spring because everything's so nice. Every spring I feel like something wonderful is going to happen.
Yes, I understand how you feel. No, I think I heard the same thing last year.
Come on, Alfred. Do try and keep up with us now. Those rain clouds are catching us up, Johan.
Let's go. Hurry up.
Alfred J. Quack starts off introducing us not to Alfred, but to his father. And it's not till episode 2 that we even begin to get to know the young Alfred. It also just so happens that episode 2 is where his mother, father, and 6 siblings all die at the hands of an inattentive driver while trying to cross the road. Like, this show has no fear whatsoever of getting serious and dealing with genuine emotion.
Where's Daddy?
Oh, Alfred.
And I kind of just want to summarize the 3 episodes I watched, but I won't. Just wait for that eventual video if I remember to make it. Not only is the story itself very strange, with a frequent dramatic shift between extremely serious moments and lighthearted ones, alongside an interesting world with a distinct but unique logic to it, but the pure experience of watching the show is like I ate shrooms and turned on PBS. Everything almost feels like it's in slow motion, and it's not just because of the horrible interlacing. The often moody synth-heavy OST and generally restrained feeling to it captures an entirely unique atmosphere and one that I'd like to experience more of. And if my cursory reading about the show is to be trusted, its willingness to explore more serious themes is something that only grows more present throughout. And I sure am a sucker for a cute aesthetic matched to something that gets serious. So yeah, Alfred J. Quack, as goofy as the name is, gets the title of Most Interesting Anime in 1989 Part 2. Congratulations.
I'm in a bad mood, for they give me no food. A fat mouse in the hand would truly be grand. My appetite stirred by just the thought of a bird. This here's gonna be the last meal of your life, duck.
Aoi Blink. This series is from the mind of Osamu Tezuka and brought to us by his own self-named studio. It really does feel like something that jumps straight out of the 70s, but aside from style altogether, it just outright is pretty terrible. The aesthetic really doesn't work for me, like they're trying to apply this older style but also make it sort of in the time. The color design is ugly and the characters don't gel with the backgrounds at all. What is the real issue, though, is that this show is one of those where things just happen. A story must unfold, we've got 20 whole minutes here and something must be done with them, but nothing about the sequence of events feels like any attempt was made to tie it together in a natural fashion. Boy goes to visit writer father, turns out story father's writing is turning to reality, they are barely surprised. Magic pony happens, father is kidnapped. It's also disjointed and awkward. I'll leave it with that much as I don't want to dwell on this show for too long, but yeah, it's bad. Akuma-kun. Akuma-kun follows the titular young boy nicknamed so for his love of all things devildom. After hundreds of attempts at summoning the famous devil Mephisto, he and his friend finally succeed, but not quite in the way he expects. Though at first they write it off as yet another failure, it turns out he managed to summon the friendly Yakume, or Hundred-Eyed Devil, who, after the surprise wears down, shows Akuma to their invisible school, home to a vast array of devils of all shapes and sizes. It turns out that Akuma is more than just a nickname, and he is one of the destined ones who appear every 10,000 years, to summon the devil to bring fortune to humans, eradicating the disasters caused by the evil demon. These devils are among the good ones, and aim to aid him in this mission. You know, I really thought I was going to make it through this entire episode without a tragedy, but here we are. Almost everything else is either fully translated or actively being done so, and none of the unsubbed shows seemed all that good to begin with, so there wasn't much lost there. For Akuma-kun, however, only one episode of the 42 available is subtitled, and as a one-off it seems. Why is it a tragedy? Well, this anime, or rather what I watched of it, is just plain great. The environment feels lush and lived in, from the everyday suburbs and nature, the fantasy world, Akuma's room. All of it has so much character and immense attention to detail on creating a visually interesting environment that also tells you something, either about the characters, the world, or the tone. The use of lighting is phenomenal, and across the board the whole episode just looks great, without necessarily having to impress with a single stellar cut of Sakuga. It has a clear artistic vision to it, a sense of cohesion across the visuals, sound design, and music that makes it an immensely enjoyable experience, all tied together with the lighthearted comedy and charming characters. So of course I had to find out who the heck directed this, and surprise surprise, it is the one and only Junichi Sato, who you may know as the mastermind behind the Aria franchise, something which has been praised for a lot of the same aspects. His catalog also boasts directing credits like Sergeant Frog and Ojamajo Doremi, as well as storyboarding work on a plethora of iconic shows, so yeah, it all makes sense now, doesn't it? So why the heck are all those shows translated and this one isn't? Please, this is a call to action. Someone please pick this up. I'd love to watch this show and be able to really appreciate it, not just stumble my way through. I don't really have much of a closing for this, just let me leave you with this absolute banger of the show's ED. Which also, that dude who did the OPs for Nichijou has a cover of on his YouTube channel. That's, cool. Man has good taste.
ゴールを走り抜けた彼のマシンはさらに加速を増していた。彼は走り続けた。
What is this guy doing in the video? Why is he here? I'm watching the AMV. I'll tell you why. Because this part gets blocked. This piece of shit AMV. Let me tell you something. I've been working on this video for 2 months. Core and Urban finished their parts 2 months ago. They've been waiting on me to finish it. And you know why I haven't been making it? Because I hate it. It sucks. It's a piece of shit video that I don't want to work on for a single minute anymore. Watch this piece of shit AMV. It sucks. It's the worst thing I've ever made. I hated every second of having it open in my Adobe Premiere instead of working on my masterpiece. I could be making my masterpieces for my channel that get millions of views. Instead, I'm working on this piece of shit garbage video that I hate. This is why this is in here. Fuck copyright.